Alright, today we're going to be talking about the best and worst feature in every single COD zombie title. COD zombies have been around for a while, with World at War coming out in 2008 being the very start for the side mode. Treyarch has released zombies with every single title they've made, and even some of the other developers have made zombies modes as well. Today we're going to go over one best thing that came out of each game and one worst thing. For best, it's either something that made the mode better and has stuck with zombies ever since, or something that didn't stick but I wish it would have. For worst, it's something that shouldn't have been in the game when it was introduced. It either got removed or got an upgrade later down the line. We're going from World at War all the way to BO6. Since BO7 is still in its life cycle, something good or bad might still come out of it while it's fresh. So I didn't want to include it just yet. Remember, this is all my opinion. If you have a different take, please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, let's get started.
Only 2.6% of you have subscribed. It would be really awesome if you just hit that subscribe button. It lets me know that you guys are enjoying these videos as much as I'm making them. Now let's get back into the video.
World at War is the very start of zombies, debuting in 2008. It wasn't even supposed to be what it is today. It was supposed to be a little Easter egg after beating the campaign. That humble beginning might sound like the best thing about World at War, and I know it could be, but my personal opinion is there was something else that came out later that changed the game, and it came out in Map Pack 3. The best in World at War is the Pack-a-Punch. This mechanic is probably the best thing to ever come out of COD zombies, period. Pack-a-Punch showed how we can turn this little small side Easter egg into something that can take over the multiplayer and campaign of COD. With this being on the last map of World at War, it definitely set up the next game and the future of COD zombies. That's why it's the best for World at War. The worst for World at War could be a couple of things, ranging from zombies with their sticky palms to quick revive not even working on solo. But my worst thing, and if you watch the channel for a bit you already know, is the major glitch on Derice. If you shoot yourself with the Wonder Waff while you have Jug, you lose Jug. The game still thinks you have it though, so you'll see the icon on the bottom right, but you just don't have the effects of Jug. This glitch is so annoying on Derice that it's why I don't like coming back to the World at War version, because I can't use the almighty Wonder Waff without risking my Jug. If they came back and just patched it, we'll all be fine, but since it's still in the game, it has to be the worst feature. Black Ops 1. This game has some of the most iconic maps in the franchise, but it does probably have the worst base weapons in the franchise. The best feature in this game is the new perk lineup. This game brought some great perks that are still crutch perks today. Stamina, PhD Flopper, Deadshot Daiquiri, and Mule Kick were all introduced in BO1 throughout its life cycle. While yes, some were better than others, this lineup of new perks was not seen again at this level. We've had more perks introduced throughout the games, but the stacked lineup of BO1's perks were so much better for the franchise overall. The worst is the 4-player only Easter eggs. This has made it so someone like me who doesn't have that many friends who play can never do the Easter eggs on BO1. I understand if you need 2 players, but getting 4 people all together, all knowing the steps, all online at the same time, that's a nightmare. They started to stop doing the 4-player Easter eggs later down the line, but with this being the inception of Easter eggs, it sucks not being able to do most of them on this game. Black Ops 2 is an interesting game because there are 2 game directors doing separate maps. Zelensky did 3 maps and Blundell did 2. I'm not saying the best part of this game was Mob of the Dead, Origins, or even Buried, since it's kind of a basic, but I have something in store for the worst pick. The best is the super Easter egg in Black Ops 2. While yes, it was only for the 3 Zelensky maps, it's still a very good system that has been seen much since. A super Easter egg is completing all the Easter eggs for Transit, Die Rise, and Buried on either Max's side or Richthofen's side. When you do, you get a little treat. I do wish super Easter eggs come back with BO7 and more to reward players who do the Easter eggs, but we'll see. The worst is the split direction of this game. As I said, there was 2 directors on this game, and I don't think it was good for the overall flow. While yes, we did get some iconic maps because of it, it should have flowed together better. We got 3 simple maps with the Victus crew, and then we took a hard right to do Mob and Org. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just feeling it just feels more like 2 games stitched together to make 1 game. I don't think that's healthy for a game's identity.
Now we go on to Advanced Warfare with Exo Zombies. This is the first non-Treyarch developer to make a zombies mode. Ended up not being the greatest start for a non-Treyarch zombie, as this is probably the worst, or at least close to the bottom of everyone's list. If you watched this channel before, you know how much I dislike this game. The best thing to come out of this game, not going back and playing it. No, I would say the best thing that it's got is it got the other developers interested in making zombies modes for their games. This opened up the possibility of different takes on zombies, which I think is a good thing. Unfortunately, in recent years, Treyarch has been the sole developer on zombies, even though other publishers or other developers make their own games, they bring in Treyarch to develop the zombies mode. But I do wish it wasn't the case, because I'd like to see Sledgehammer and Infinity Ward make some more takes on the mode. The worst has got to be the infection mechanic. These infected zombies spawn every so often, and if they touch you, you have to go to a specific area to get cleansed. But it's not a one-done thing until next time. No. If you get touched again, even while you're in the chamber cleaning yourself, you get infected right away. It just makes for an annoying gameplay loop that never feels fair. Now we go on to Black Ops 3. This game was at the top of my list, and that's because of one simple thing, and I think it is the best feature brought to this game. The best. Modding and custom maps on PC. With this game being moddable, it has produced some of the best maps and modes in Zombies history that even rival some of the best official maps in the franchise. You can play story-driven maps or even challenges with your friends. The modding scene on BO3 has been some of the best in the series, and it's what keeps the game alive to this day. The worst has got to be the pay-to-win gobblegums. While yes, I do think some gobblegums are cool and unique, my issue is with the pay-to-win ones, the shopping frees and the parkaholics. They're optional in retrospect. I just don't think the pay-to-win ones should have been in the game to begin with. You can earn them just very slowly and not nearly as easily as, for example, the way a BO6 and BO7 handles their equivalent systems. The pay-to-win gobblegums has to be the worst feature in Black Ops 3. Now we go into Infinite Warfare. This is definitely in my top 3 COD zombies of all time, and that's for a couple of reasons. The maps are great, the characters and story are amazing, and there's one thing that makes it the best thing about this game. The best is definitely the Mephistopheles boss fight. While I personally haven't defeated it myself, this boss fight is just unmatched in Call of Duty Zombies history. To get there, you have to complete each Easter egg, then complete each Easter egg again in Director's Cut mode, and then you'll be able to take this on. It's incredibly difficult, such a great final boss that I wish they continued the story with it. The worst is the underpowered wonder weapons. While I do think some are great and they're unique, most of them are quite underpowered. The MAD and the weapons of rock aren't the greatest in terms of damage, but still really cool looking. The katana is cool and a little underpowered, and the crossbows, while a cool take on the elemental weapons, could have been a little bit stronger. Call of Duty World War II. World War II is the most unique out of all the games, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of World at War because of the best here. The best being the atmosphere and the horror settings. While Treyarch and other studios go for more of a fantasy, worldly type of game with the multiverse and mythological characters nowadays, World War II went for a straight-up horror type of gameplay with the jump scares and aspects of the game. The horror aspects makes this game stand out from the rest. It's refreshing and unique, and I wish more games took this approach. The worst, the story falling apart. The story felt great when it came out. The Final Reich made some good strides in building something interesting, but over time it seemed like the developers either ran out of time or just didn't know where to go, so the story fell flat on its face. That's unfortunate since the game was very unique and fun to go back. Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 is my personal favorite title. While yes, it had some issues at the start of its life cycle and still has some issues today that make it not everyone's favorite, I still think it's great. The best is the Chaos story. While a lot of people didn't like it as much as Ether, I think it started off strong, and I would have liked to see where it went. I feel like the Chaos story would have been a great continuation of a story after Ether ended, as the atmosphere and depth of these maps in the Chaos story were some of the best in the whole franchise, and I wish it would have been treated better. The cliffhanger in Ancient Evil showed that it could have been so much more. The worst is the Aether story ending, the other side of the coin. While the maps were good, all of them being remasters wasn't a good send-off for our crew. I do like Tiger Toten for the aesthetics and gameplay, and the story was okay. The final cutscene after Tag was pretty heartbreaking, and it was pretty good. But playing as the Victus crew instead of our main crew was a weird way to send them off. I know there were plans for Season 2 of BO4 Zombies, I just wish we got to see it come together. Now on to Call of Duty Cold War. Cold War rebooted the franchise. Whether you think the changes were good or bad, it changed the game to what it is now. The best that came out of Cold War was the exfil system. In older Call of Duties, the only way to leave a match was to down yourself or straight up leave the game. While that was fine for a while, Cold War changed that. Exfil now lets you call in a chopper or now a Doctor Who telephone box to exfil and leave alive. This also gives you some rewards if you survive,
which is a nice bonus to encourage leaving alive instead of just dying. The worst of Cold War was the no dedicated crew. This was and still is the only Treyarch game where there isn't a dedicated crew that you play as. Besides Vanguard and Modern Warfare Zombies, even though those were made by Treyarch, I don't consider them Treyarch games. Cold War lets you play as whatever operator you bought. This is fine in BO6 and BO7, but in Cold War, when you get to a cutscene, your operator is in it. So whether you're a Ghostface or whatever silly operator you are, just takes me out of the game. BO6 and 7 brought back a dedicated crew, and they handle it better. If you're playing as Beavis and Butthead, you won't see yourself in cutscenes because the actual crew members are the only ones in those scenes. So in my personal opinion, in Call of Duty Cold War, the worst is the no dedicated crew. Call of Duty Vanguard probably had some of the most aura out of all modern COD Zombies games, and I applaud it for that. This game had a lot of hate, but I understand why. But I do think this game is not as bad as you think as a whole. I did like the multiplayer, the campaign was alright, but the zombies was a hit or miss with its math. The best is the field upgrade characters. Not because of the field upgrades themselves, since Cold War had it, personalities of them. Cold War felt so bland since we had operators using basic voice lines, but with Vanguard we got these characters tied to a field upgrade that gave life to the game again. Instead of having operators and a dedicated crew, we got this dedicated crew with the field upgrades. This was the closest thing to a dedicated crew, and I did like. They would make comments on things in games, make comments to each other, and overall I think it was the best thing to come out of Vanguard. The worst is the lack of wonder weapons. The wonder weapons in this game were just straight up trash. You got the ray gun as always, then you got the decimator shield, which was a cool concept, executed poorly, and it was on 2 of the 4 maps. And then last but not least, the return of the Wonder WAW, except this time you can build it. So that was kind of cool. But overall, the wonder weapon selection on this game was terrible. Modern Warfare Zombies is the most unique on this list, as it's not a traditional round-based mode. And since I haven't really played too much of it, besides, a couple hours, I'm not really going to talk too much about this. The best is the unique take on the mode. I do love round-based gameplay, don't get me wrong, but as I said before, I like different takes on the mode. Spice it up a bit, So while this isn't my favorite game to play, I do like the take on it. The worst is the mercenaries. I do think the time limit is trash and shouldn't be a thing, but the worst has to be the mercenaries. This is a zombie game. Why are there people shooting at me? Also, these guys have aim assist so they can murder me in like 5 seconds. Human enemies in a zombie game mode just doesn't belong. Alright, now we're going to Black Ops 6, our last game of the video. Black Ops 6 was one of my favorite modern zombies games for a while, but it has issues that I think were improved later with BO7. But the best in BO6 has to be the boss fights. The boss fights in earlier games were fun and unique, but the scale of the boss fights in Black Ops 6 was on a different level, and they were even improved upon in Black Ops 7. Even the bad boss fights were still a spec. This game was just operating at a new level when it came to boss encounters. Worst is the lack of content within the maps. I grinded for Nebula Cambo, and after that was done, I played pretty much each new map besides the first 3, probably 3 or 4 times. Did the Easter egg, and then didn't come back. These maps are lacking a lot in either side Easter egg or just content within the game that made older maps so special. There isn't enough to keep pulling you back once you've done the main quest. Alright, that was my list of best and worst things from each game. There are a lot more within each game, but I just wanted to stick to one of each game to keep this video from being super long. I also tried to make these not just generic topics like, best map, best Easter egg, all that. Some might be, but I think most of them are unique. Anyway, what do you guys think is the best or worst feature in each game? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.